All right, let's dive into something really fascinating today. We're going to unpack this incredible parable about what it really means to transform. Now, this isn't your typical fantasy story. Think of it more as a symbolic map, a journey into the deepest, weirdest parts of the mind, a place this story calls the uncanny forest.
And boom, right from the get-go, we're not just in any forest. The imagery here is just so powerful, right? Trees made of calcified memories, leaves whispering hidden shames. This immediately tells you we're on an internal journey, where the world around our hero is just a reflection of what's inside him. So you might be wondering, how does our main character, this figure they call the Jester, actually get here? Well, it's not a gentle stroll, it's a violent, sudden plunge. Not into some woods, but deep into the very fabric of his own mind.
It all kicks off with this mirror, right? But it's not just any mirror. It starts pulsing with the strange energy of an eclipse, and then bam, with a sound like shattering glass, it literally shatters his reality. This isn't a gentle invitation. It's a violent shove into a new state of being, and that tells you the trials ahead are going to be just as intense. So what is this place? The story calls it an interstitial space, which is just a cool way of saying it's a place between places, between consciousness and the subconscious. And here's the crucial part. In this forest, every single hidden truth, every secret fear, takes on a real, monstrously physical form. The jester can't just think his way out of this. He has to literally walk among his own demons. And this is where we get to the absolute heart of the conflict. The story is telling us that our whole idea of being one single, separate person is an illusion. And for the jester, that's not some dusty old philosophical idea anymore. It's a living, breathing, terrifying landscape that he has to try and survive. His entire sense of I is on trial. Okay, so he's trapped in this mind forest. What's the first test? Well, he has to face all the parts of himself he's tried to bury or ignore. He has to come face to face with what the story calls his shadow.
Now, this shadow is not your classic bad guy with a cape. No way. It's way more complicated. It's not just a dark silhouette. It's a reflection of every single path he didn't take, every version of himself he chose not to be. It's like a guardian of all his lost possibilities. You know, this is a lot like what the psychologist Carl Jung talked about with our personal shadow, the unconscious dark side we all have.
So how does this all go down? It starts with him being unmasked, literally. This strange violet fog rolls in and it just strips away his persona, his jester mask. And what's underneath? Something raw, a primordial hunger. To survive here, his clever words are useless. He has to tap into something much deeper, a raw, instinctive will. He's being broken down to his absolute core. And here's the kicker. The jester thought he was already done, you know? He thought he'd already gone on a journey and achieved some kind of wholeness. But this place shows him, nope, that was just scratching the surface. The uncanny forest is a forge, and its whole purpose is to burn away that superficial understanding and hammer him into something far more real and, yeah, far more brutal. Just look at this breakdown. It's a total head-to-head between who he thought he was and who he really is. On one side, you've got the mask, clever, making sacrifices, striving alone. But the forest forces him to see what's underneath. A raw will, a secret desire for control, a deep fear of real connection, and a desperate need to be approved of. It's a complete demolition of his self-image. And these aren't just, psychological concepts. This story makes it so visceral. These truths are literally bleeding from the trees like sap. Each drop is another painful revelation. Even his highest goal, his ideal of the overman, which is this idea from Nietzsche about becoming a self-mastered, superior human, even that is revealed to be just another fancy mask to hide his real, messy, flawed self. And this is the moment everything changes. Faced with all this ugliness about himself, he doesn't break down and cry. He laughs, a harsh, metallic laugh. He doesn't run from his flaws, he owns them. This is basically the philosophical idea of amor fati in action, loving your fate. He takes all the rot he's discovered and decides, okay, this is part of me. I'm going to use it to make myself even stronger. Okay, so he's accepted the ugliest parts of himself. Where's that lead? Well, it leads to the climax of this whole thing, where the jester comes to a completely radical new understanding of what power even is. The forest suddenly starts showing him his future, or rather, his futures. It shows him all these different possibilities at once, and it all boils down to one essential question. Which one is it going to be? Savior or tyrant? He sees that the potential for both is right there inside him. The choice is his. And then he gets another huge insight. This whole transformation thing, it's not a finish line you cross. It's not like you just become enlightened and then you're done. The story calls it a perpetual, painful birth. It's a constant cycle of growth and struggle that literally never ends. This completely flips the whole idea of innocence on its head. We usually think of it as being pure, right? Untouched by the world's messiness. But here, true innocence is the exact opposite. It's the courage to stay in the game, to keep getting hurt, to keep bleeding, all for the sake of life itself. So all of these painful, powerful truths start to merge together, and they form one final, shimmering vision. That ultimate goal, the Overman, finally appears. But it's not a person. It's an empty throne. What in the world could that mean? And the answer is a total paradox. See, real mastery isn't about sitting on the throne and calling the shots. It's about becoming the empty throne itself. It's about becoming the void, the pure potential, the space where all new things can be born. True power isn't about control. It's about enabling creation. Getting this, truly understanding it, is his final commitment. And to seal the deal, he does something huge. He shatters the very mirror that brought him here in the first place. He lets all its energy just bleed out into the forest floor, fully committing himself not to observing his mind, but to becoming it. Which brings us to the final stage of all this, the ultimate integration. The jester has faced his shadow, he's shattered his old ideas of himself, so what's left? Look at this shift. It's not just a change, it's a complete rewrite of his entire being. Before, he was a visitor in the forest, a separate person fighting his shadow. Now he exists as the forest. There's no more fight. His darkness and his drive, they aren't enemies anymore. They're just the roots and the branches of one single unified thing. And how did he pull this off? Well, the answer is so simple, but it's also the hardest thing in the world. He just didn't run away. He stood his ground and faced the absolute terror of his own soul. And by accepting it all, he integrated it. He made the uncanny a part of him. This line just says it all, doesn't it? His new state is both poisonous and beautiful. There's zero distinction left between the jester and the terrifying deep abyss of his own psyche. He is the abyss. It's a total, complete fusion. And so we end with this, just an incredible, provocative final image. The new jester isn't just going back to his old life. He's coming out to haunt the world. But look at those words. He's both its most joyful and its most terrifying truth. And that really leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What does a world look like when it's haunted by a truth like that?